Well, my little granddaughter Katie, she's all the time wanting this little dish that I have on my dresser.
Yeah!
She's all the time wanting it. And the other day, she was there and she was wanting it. I said, no, honey, you can't have it now. But when you get married, I'm going to give you that little dish. And she said, oh, well, goody. But then, and if I don't have any children, I'll just give it to my grandchildren. You know, and Jeremy the other day when me and Bubba was out at this church picnic, well, Jeremy come running up to Bubba and said, Grandpa, said, can you make a noise like a frog? And Bubba said, well, no, but I don't guess I can. I've never tried, but why in the world would you want me to make a noise like a frog? He said, Jeremy said, well, because Mama said that when you croaked, we was all going to go to Disney World. Well, this one I got from George Johns. One time he was going to go to New York, and he ran into this woman, and he was telling her about the trip, and she said, well, you know what? I've got a son that he went to New York about 3 years ago, and I haven't heard a word from him since. Said if you go to New York, if you happen to run into him, tell him his name is John Dunn. Said tell him to call his mama. He said, well, I will if I run into him. So he went to New York, and then all of a sudden he saw this building. It had Dun and Bradstreet up there on it. He said, I bet that's where he might be, in that building there. So he went in there and he walked up to the receptionist and he said, do y'all have a John in here? She said, yeah, it's right over there. So he went walking over there where she pointed, and about that time a young man come walking out and he said, are you done? And he said, yes. Well, call your mama. But you know, other day, everybody's funny. Like Katie the other day, I invited all these people over for supper. And we got all to the table, the preacher and his wife and all these people at the table. When I thought about it, and I looked over at Katie and I said, Katie, will you ask the blessing for us? And Katie said, no, Mama, I don't want to. Said, I don't know what to say. I said, well, you just say what you've heard me say. She bowed her head and she said, oh, God, why did I invite all these people over here? I got a new neighbor over in Hooterville, and so I decided the other day I'd go there and visit her. So I went over there, and we was visiting, just talking along, and all of a sudden I noticed this beautiful vase that she had, big vase, a beautiful thing, sitting on this table, and I said, oh, that is such a pretty vase. It's so unique and unusual. I said, what do you keep in it? She said, oh, it's just John's ashes. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know your husband was dead. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know he was dead. She said, oh, he's not dead. He's just too lazy to find an ashtray. Then this other couple, this man was on his deathbed, and he was dying. And he was just desperate, and he'd been sort of praying and trying to get right with the Lord. And then he called his wife over to his bedside, and he said, honey, said, I am so sorry. Will you please forgive me? But there's one thing I got to get off my chest before I die, and that is this. I'm sorry, but I've cheated on you. And she said, I know. He said, you know all about it? She said, of course I know all about it. Why do you think I poisoned you? This is one of the most favorite jokes of all that I've told, and I bet WKEU has played it on the radio at 7 o'clock in the morning a number of times, me telling this one. And it's about the vacuum cleaner guy. I was sitting at the house one morning, and I was so sad and depressed and just sitting there alone and just feeling so down and out, when all of a sudden there was a knock at the door. And I went to the door, and there stood this young man, nice looking young man. They had a vacuum cleaner in his hand. And he said, "Ma'am, I'd like to show you this vacuum cleaner." And I just tried to shut that door and get him. I said, "No, I'm not interested. I ain't got no money, no way, and I'm not interested in no vacuum cleaner." And he just sort of pushed away. He said, "But you ain't seen this vacuum cleaner. This is the latest thing in technology. It's the greatest thing that ever has come out as far as vacuum cleaners is concerned. So let me show it to you. Don't be in too big a hurry." And and he said, "Now I guarantee you," and with that he poured a little bucket of cow manure right out on her carpet, on the carpet. And he said, "Now I guarantee you this vacuum cleaner will remove every smidgen of that off this carpet, and if it don't, I'll eat it." And then she said, "Well, I hope you have a good appetite then, because they turned off my electricity this morning." Let me tell y'all about the couple who couldn't have any children. They couldn't have any children. They kept going to the doctor and going to the doctor, and just went on for years and everything. It seemed like going to the doctor, and they couldn't have any children. And so one day, in desperation, when they was leaving the doctor's office, she said, "Well, you know what? Let's go by our preacher's house and let him pray for us. Maybe that's our last resort. Let's let him pray for us." So they went by there, but when they went by there, they found him out in the garage where he liked to piddle and do little things and oil things and different things. So they went out there where he was at and everything, and he prayed for them. And, well, sure enough, it was about 3 or 4 months later, they got the good news. They was going to be parents. And so they decided they'd go by there and tell him about it. So they went back by there, and they said, "Well, guess what? We're going to be parents and everything." He said, "Well, that's wonderful. God does answer prayer." She said, "Well, but I'll tell you one thing. I sure am glad when you're anointed with that oil that you use that 3-in-1 oil and not that WD-40. Because they're going to have triplets."
WD-40. Triplets. 3-in-1.
3-in-1.
That just hit me.
Well,
Blondie.
Well,
Yeah.
my son and them got 2 little boys. One was 3 or 4 years old, and then they had this new baby, and they took the church one Sunday to be dedicated and baptized and that kind of thing, you know. And so after church, when the little one was baptized and everything, they got in the car and started home, and the 3-year-old started crying, and he cried and he cried and he cried, and they kept saying, "Well, what is wrong with you?" And he wouldn't say nothing, and they said, "Well, tell us now, what in the world is wrong with you crying?" He said, "Well, that preacher said that he wanted us raised in a good Christian home, and I wanted to stay with you guys."
Yes.
Usually I end all my little skits with this, even when I talk to civic groups like this, because this is a good thing. You can't go through life with just a catcher's mitt in your hand. You have to be able to throw something back. You can stay in the game longer that way, and you'll have a whole lot more fun doing it. But I want to read one little thing. I always end with something inspirational. As children bring their broken toys with tears for us to mend, I brought my broken dreams to God because He is my friend. But then, instead of leaving Him, in peace to work alone. I hung around and tried to help with ways that were my own. At last, I just snatched them back from him, and I cried, "How could you be so slow?" But then I heard him say, "My child, what could I do? You never did let go."
Wow. Good.
Isn't that good?
Amen.